Hi everyone, thank you for joining me, Amber Bach, for my week 2 presentation for Dr. S's class on January 18th, 2020. So the first theory I'm going to go over is one by St. Thomas Aquinas, and he discussed the natural law theory. So this theory built upon Aristotle's theory that nature built us to be virtuous. However, it had that foundation of God. He believed that we have an innate understanding of good and evil placed in us by God. So kind of stemming from that divine command theory, not to that same extent, throwing in a little Aristotle's theory right there, virtues. And he believed that we ultimately do what we need to do to fulfill the 7 basic goods and fulfill our purpose. He believed that we were all working toward eudaimonia, which Aristotle discussed, by pursuing good and avoiding evil. We are always in the pursuit of being better. So the basic goods he discussed were life, reproduction, the education of the offspring, seeking God, living in society, avoiding offense, and shunning ignorance. The next theorist is Immanuel Kant, and he was on the other side of the spectrum of Thomas Aquinas. He did not think that morality and religion had anything to do with each other. He believed that knowing what is right and wrong is knowable by using intellect, and God has nothing to do with it. He believed that commands are things that we must follow regardless of our desires, which were called categorical imperatives. And these commands are universal. So the first formula of that universalizability. And then the second formulation that there's the humanity aspect. So yes, we will use people, it is in our nature, but as long as we do not use them as mere means, we must think of the other party involved and not just ourselves. And then universally, the commands apply to everyone. There are no exceptions to the rule. And then a quote I found from him is, "Morality is not the doctrine of how we make ourselves happy, but how we make ourselves worthy of happiness." So that kind of goes into play with his second formulation of principle of humanity. And then we have John Stuart Mill and Jeremy Bentham, and they were coined with utilitarianism and the principle of utility. So this is a form of consequentialism. This is a theory based upon consequences or results of an action, despite their intentions. So if a bad intention produced a good consequence, then that is a good act regardless if that initial intention was actually bad. So this focuses on maximum utility and happiness and doing what is best for the greater good of society. This also is a theory that is supposed to be applied equally with no exceptions. So again, you do what is best for the greatest number of people, kind of like that term, you take one for the team, essentially. And this is seen a lot in politics. Many politicians choose platforms that they believe will provide maximum utility. This next theory comes from Thomas Hobbes, and that is the theory of contractarianism, also known as the social contract theory. Hobbes believed that morality is not something that is primitive or natural or comes from a higher power, but it is more of a social contract and belief that right acts are right because we as humans agree that they are right. So these contracts can be explicit or implicit. It could be something that we actually physically sign or an unspoken agreement that we have between each other. This also comes with the issue of defection. So this is when someone breaks the contracts and thinks of their own interests instead of cooperating for the greater well-being. This is where the term the prisoner's dilemma comes from, whether they rat out their friend or they stay silent. That was discussed in the video that we watched this week. But this theory is also the most permissive. So if everyone agrees an act is now right that was not considered right before, it is now right. It is because the contract has changed. We now believe something is right, and if we all agree on it, then it is now right. So this is the moral theory that can be changed. But once that contract is in place, it cannot be broken. So although it's the most permissive, once something is agreed upon that something is right, it must be followed. So, two theories that apply to the health and environment industry that is overlooked by the Environmental Protection Agency is the use of utilitarianism and contractarianism. So basically, the EPA is in charge of looking at the greater good of everyone. So when they place rules and regulations on chemical companies and disposal of waste products, that's because they are looking at the greater good of everyone. They want to ensure the health and well-being of not only humans, but also the environment. And then they also utilize contractarianism. So companies are either explicitly or implicitly supposed to abide by rules and regulations, and if they don't abide by these rules, they could be fined, they could lose funding. It really just depends on what the law is, but those two social theories apply to at least the EPA. So does the virtue theory apply to public administrators? I personally believe absolutely. So as a public administrator, they are supposed to be in place to serve the public. They're supposed to do what is right for the overall good of society. They're not in there to be a politician. They're simply meant to do what is best and kind of find that sweet spot, the golden mean. They don't want to provide too much, provide too. It's all about doing the right thing at the right time, in the right way, in the right amount. So, for example, homelessness, that is a hot topic right now. So they want to make sure that, so right now, working on homelessness is the right time because that is the huge issue right now. But they want to work on it in the right way and in the right amount. So they want to make sure that they're not only helping the homeless, but also helping the community that the homeless live in, and make sure they have that balance between appeasing the community members while also assisting the homeless. And that is my presentation. Thank you folks so much. I really appreciate your time and have a great day.